a four-dimensional slice. It's called a brane, B-R-A-N-E, and it's in this high-dimensional bulk. That's just the term they use. And in what's called brane cosmology, which goes a bit beyond that, that says because cosmology is the large-scale structure of the universe, this sheet, this brane, actually moves through the bulk. If the world is really, say, five-dimensional, as like the bulk, and we're only on a slice of this five-dimensional space, what else is there in the rest of the space off the bulk? Well, the only thing I'm aware of is my mental world, my dreams, my memories, my visualizations, my out-of-body experiences, my near-death experiences. So to me, it's very natural to try and say that these experiences can be described in terms of this high-dimensional space.
It would be incorrect not to say that we don't live in ordinary space-time, but we live in superspace. The fact that you aren't aware of these extra dimensions begs the question, how are you aware of the ordinary dimensions? Space-time, I'll remind you, is a mental construct.
Deeper understanding of physics, physicists now say that you can never actually touch anything. Why? Briefly, all the bonds, or contact, that we are aware of, are through atoms exchanging electrons. Atoms are made up by quarks, which are fermions. Electrons are also fermions. Based on Pauli's exclusion principle, no two electrons can occupy the same place. Additionally, electrons orbit around atoms in cloud. Therefore, there is simply no physical contact. Then where do we get our sensations from without contact? Are all that we experience illusions? We now have to hear Dignaga, who wrote the critical text of Yogacara Buddhism, which is Alambana Parik Savrti. In this text, he refuted the other school's views that either atoms, or substance made up by atoms, can provide qualia as our interacting conditions for our consciousness. He argued that when one divides the substance or atom to its smallest constituent, one cannot find qualia such as color, sound, smell, taste, and touch. The views of other schools are similar to the current view of science, which is called the emergence principle. But to date, nobody knows how qualia can emerge. Hence, he concluded that qualia can only arise at the same time and together as interacting conditions for our consciousness. He called it direct interacting conditions. This brings us to brane, a critical object in string theory. In string theory, there are two possible explanations for the location of extra dimensions. First, the extra space dimensions are curled up to incredibly small sizes, so we never perceive them. Second, we are stuck on a three-dimensional brane, and the extra dimensions extend off it and are inaccessible to us. Yogacara Buddhism denies consciousness as function of our brain, but activation of seeds of consciousness. For example, seeds of eye consciousness. With activation of seeds of eye consciousness will split into a visual function and an image function at the same time. The visual function will then interact with the content in the image function. All these descriptions are more like a block diagram and have nothing to do with the brain nor the neurons in the brain. The visual image is always thought of, or drawn as, a two-dimensional surface in Yogacara Buddhism. But when we see through glasses, or we look at the fishes in the pond, or we could hear sound coming from all directions, or we could feel what is below a blanket, these are certainly three-dimensional experiences. Question is, how can a two-dimensional surface be able to subsume information in a three-dimensional space? The story of brane is rather complicated and complex, but let us keep it simple. Assume we cut the three-dimensional space into slices which are so thin the thickness is almost zero. Next, we assemble these slices together and form a sheet. Now we get a brane. This brane then represents the three-dimensional space. This brane now becomes the visual function of our consciousness. Assume we are living in a virtual reality. To be realistic, the designer and programmer will have to do similar programming where the branes will be some forms of virtual storage with each representing our different senses. Hence, branes in string theory are the visual functions of our consciousness, and the image functions are the strings that are attached onto the branes. The strings attached on the branes are the direct interacting conditions, which is like the electrical signals on the goggles of one living in the metaverse. Whatever happened in the metaverse, similar to what is in our phenomena space, can never be the interactive conditions, as they are just projection. Are there strings representing color, sound, smell, taste, and touch? Yes, certainly. M-theory is said to contain infinitely number of massless particles, but are discarded by string theorists as they think they are useless. These could very well be the qualia we are looking for.